Welcome to Expect the Unexpected workshop today. I want to thank you all for joining and taking the time to hear my story and the successes of RWI Logistics with utilizing the Domo platform. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my experience, as well as RWI Logistics and how we serve logistics solutions to our customers. So I have had over 20 years experience in the supply chain and logistics arena. Majority of my career has been spent at consumer products companies such as Kimberly-Clark and Colgate-Palmolive. And I've had a wide variety of roles from production planning to warehouse management and distribution. At these companies, I really got great experiences with robust business intelligence solutions, and I learned how to use data and analytics to make better business decisions. So I've also worked on the software side as a consultant for MercuryGate, a transportation management solution provider. And then most recently came to RWI Logistics over 3.5 years ago. RWI Logistics is based in the greater Cincinnati area. We are a solutions-oriented logistics service provider, and we are also a logistics arm for the Castellini Company, which is one of the largest distributors of produce in the United States. We specialize in cold chain execution. So a large majority of our customers are in the food and beverage industry, grocery and retail locations, as well as food service providers. We strive to offer quality care and a customized approach to transportation management services, as well as business intelligence-driven solutions to give our customers insights and help them on a continuous improvement journey. We are a non-asset-based company with around 60 employees, and our greatest resources and competitive advantage are really our people and our technology applications. So I'm really excited to share with you today how Domo has helped us stay competitive in a rapidly changing market condition. Before I jump into my presentation, I do want to let you all know that I will be live in the chat today. So feel free to submit questions or comments, and I'd love to respond to those. Today, I'm here to talk to you about unexpected situations and how we were able to take control of these situations and really drive successful results. When I arrived at RWI Logistics, we had no data warehouse. We had no formal business intelligence solution. A little under 3 years, we have been able to transform our business and build our data analytics solution in Domo from the ground up. I'm really passionate about leading our technology strategy and our business process improvement initiatives to drive continuous improvement and to enable best-in-class process and business execution. But I tell you, we could not achieve this without having the Domo platform and being able to set up a very flexible and scalable business intelligence solution. I hope to share with you today the insights and the keys to success that we were able to gain by having a data solution that was agile and able to adapt to the changes in the market conditions and really the unexpected situations that we all faced in 2020. So let's dive into this unexpected year that we all lived through in 2020. I know that each and every one of you have a story about how your business was impacted and in ways that we had never imagined. So really for us, as I mentioned before, we service the food and beverage industry, the perishable industry, and what happened was our business base and our customer base really segmented and divided into two very opposite ends of the spectrum. So we had the food service industry that overnight basically shut down when COVID hit in March, and restaurants and bars were completely shut down. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we had grocery and retail customers who were trying to keep products on the shelves. And that was a race to get product and trucks to the grocery stores and unload as fast as we possibly could. We had very volatile market conditions with a complete imbalance of truck capacity and where goods were and where they needed to get to. And we also had part of our industry and part of our customer segment was completely shut down. These led to unprecedented events that we could not have forecasted, and we really didn't have a lot of ability to look at historical patterns to predict what was about to happen. On top of all of that, we had to change from being an open office environment that everybody works together, sits next to one another, and it's very loud and exciting, and had to create remote work situations for all of our employees. So within less than a week, we deployed equipment and sent our employees home to work remote. So that in itself presented challenges that we had never dealt with on a broad scale of how do we connect our employees and how do we make sure that we drive business forward in these really unpredictable situations. We really turned to Domo and leveraged our data structure to quickly pull in data relative to these outside influences, relative to these market conditions, to really understand the challenges that we faced. And prior to Domo, this would have been more of a gut feeling and a highly disjointed effort that would have taken us weeks. And instead, it took us a very small subset of work and effort to deploy. This really helped us enhance our business experience for not only our employees, but our customers and our carriers. And we were able to offer innovative solutions quickly to really minimize the business disruption and the productivity issues that we were facing. I would like to take you through what I would consider the 3 keys to success in enabling us to react so quickly to all of these unprecedented changes in our business. The first is a scalable data strategy. So we worked to make sure that we connected our data in a way and built data sets and built data flows that it was easy to bring in new source data, and then we could rapidly access that data and connect it in a way that we could transform our cards and visualizations as our business was transforming. Another key was building intuitive visualizations. So when I say intuitive visualizations, these are cards that different users can connect with, from our own internal resources to our customers, and even at an employee engagement standpoint. Cards that people can look at and interpret very easily, that don't require a lot of explanation, and that give them the answers that they're looking to find on the business questions that they have. And then lastly, we took steps each and every day that really prepared us for the future. And what I mean by that is we looked at data that maybe we didn't really understand fully how we were going to use it, but we knew there was importance to getting it connected into our data warehouse and our ecosystem. So when the day arrived and we discovered that there was importance and value in that data, we could quickly access that. I'm going to first start with how we built a scalable data strategy and some of the examples, some business use cases that illustrate how relevant and important this data strategy was. First, what we did around building a scalable data strategy was building a flexible foundation with this concept of building data lakes. So we have probably between 15 to 20 different data sources that we connect with and that we interact with on a regular basis. Some of them are very large, some of them are very small. But what we did to build that foundation for how we pull data into our ecosystem is really leveraging this data lake strategy. So taking and segmenting the data into certain objects as it would relate to our business and giving it its own pool to reside in. What this enabled was quick access to these lakes that could be used as selective areas for pulling in what was needed at the time. Instead of bringing everything in and making it part of a data flow that could be cumbersome down the line. We also leveraged unique keys to enable quick data flow creation and connections. So within these data lakes, there is a unique key that resides and enables data across different lakes to be connected in a related data flow. We also leverage standard naming conventions to streamline the organization of our data sets and of our data flows. And it enables our team that when they have a request for a new card or a new visualization, they can use that standard naming convention to quickly find the area in which that data resides and understand which data lakes need to be connected. And really, these three things enabled us to rapidly deploy new data flows and cards as we faced this challenging business condition that really was changing on a daily basis. So let me talk to you about some of the use cases of how we put this data strategy in motion and really put it to the test. First, we used it to create visualizations that really helped us to capture our risk and our opportunities. So what you're seeing here is a market map. So what this map represents is in the logistics industry, where there is truck capacity and where there is product that needs to get moved. These maps were really critical during COVID and during the time that states were locking down because there was such a disparity in the supply and demand and such volatility in how rapidly these conditions were changing. There was a great imbalance across our nation, and it was very difficult to predict what was going to happen. We had used these maps in the past, but what we were able to deploy with new data coming across from those market resources was this concept of really hot or nuclear areas. So as you can see on this map example, there's a yellow area at the top of the map. This represents a very volatile area where it is going to be extremely difficult to get product in or out of this location. What we were able to do is change and adjust our data sets and our logic over the course of just a couple days to provide this level of insight to our teams. And then it enabled our teams to adjust their daily execution and to service customers in a different way, to also help carriers that were out of network and had to get back on track and really ultimately deliver much needed products to our consumers. We also translated this map that you see on the left into our top 10 lanes and where we had capacity or where we were facing major challenges with limited capacity. And we were able to develop logic very quickly so that we could review these top 10 lanes that we execute in on a daily basis and we assign them a score. Now, I could go into a very long explanation of how is that score calculated and what does it mean, but we made it very simple for our users. We color-coded it. We're big on the stoplight, red, yellow, green color coding. Green means easy, means you're on target, you're ahead of the game. Red, you better stop and think about how to adjust your approach because it's going to be difficult. So we were able to use these market insights and the market data to really translate that into how we could adjust our daily business execution. And this proved to be quite invaluable in order to maintain our business volume and also offer really creative solutions to our customers and to our carriers. I also want to show you live within our instance how we use market changes and look at week over week impact as a proactive measure and indicator of where things might start to change very quickly. So let me jump into our Domo instance. This data gave us an at-a-glance perspective that allowed us to redeploy our transportation resources based on the new supply and demand paradigm created by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now we're able to use live visualizations within the Domo platform to really look at how those conditions are changing. And what we're able to see, as I can show you in this example here, is that we can show real time how the market conditions are changing week over week. And in these darker colored areas, we are seeing that the week over week change is much more drastic than it has been over the last month or so. So this gives us a proactive read that these markets have conditions unlike how they've performed in the last couple of weeks and likely are going to require us to take much different action. The second key to success is creating intuitive visualizations. And the way that we achieved this was from standardizing dashboards and cards to drive immediate action, color coding against targets, adjusting the cards for the audience to make sure that the data that's being presented and the areas of insight are relative to their job roles and responsibilities. And lastly, keeping visuals evergreen, applying continuous improvement methodologies and concepts to those cards to keep them fresh, to make sure that those insights are still delivering action and results. Relative to color coding against target, we prefer to use the stoplight colors. Red means that we are not meeting target, that the results are not being achieved as expected. Yellow is more of a warning, and then green indicates that targets are being exceeded and the goal and the KPI is being met. We try to ensure that we always have a level of standardization to see those gauges or dials at the very top of our dashboards and cards in a color-coded format, and then draw the user down the page to cards that will give insights to take action on those areas that are red. So I'd like to share with you and show you some of those visualizations that connect to the market maps that I shared in the previous section and how we translated that market data into actionable cards depending on which area our team members were working in, from both the carrier side and the customer side. So this first visualization that you see, it doesn't have a lot of words. It has numbers and it has dots or circles. In this visualization, we translated the market insights that were highlighted on the market map and the current industry challenges that existed. So in a certain region, there may be tight capacity or tight demand. We map the capacity and demand into an easy to interpret visualization or user interface for our carrier resources. Then what they're able to really focus their efforts on is, think of this as a Tetris game. The dots are constantly following because they are on a time continuum. And that bottom line is the day that that load needs to pick up and ship. The dots represent loads that we have not found carrier coverage on. So we are still searching in that marketplace for carriers to cover these loads. Before we had this visualization, we treated all loads the same. But in reality, all loads are not the same. And so what this does is it combines that coverage score, which indicates a tough market position or an easy market position. So tough being 1 and being on the left side of the scale, easy being a 20 and on the right side of the scale. And what we were able to do is really combine the time factor with the capacity and demand and market factors and focus all of our really difficult efforts and our resources all became focused on that lower left quadrant. So the idea here was that we don't want those dots to fall into that lower left quadrant. That means that that is going to create additional time, resources, and likely eroded margin for that load to be covered. And it really changed the way that our team members worked. They worked harder to cover loads in the upper left-hand side before they dropped to the lower left-hand side. And it also changed the way that we interacted with the customer, because we got a really good read to know that a load was going to be a very challenging load for us. And we could then articulate the current market conditions to those customers. And in many cases, there was a level of flexibility that we could change some of the details of the load and the way that we were executing it to maybe bring it to a more favorable position. So being able to create a visualization that was intuitive, that once we aligned our team members to how that logic worked, we didn't have to have them read color coding on a map. We just had to focus them into a certain quadrant and help them understand what actions they needed to take. And we were able to achieve much greater success, not only with being ahead of the game and covering loads in advance, but also being ahead of the game when those loads were going to be challenging and difficult. The other way that we utilized intuitive visualizations to change communication was with our customers. We took those same market insights that I shared with you in the market map, and we translated those for our customers into risk level assessment cards. So what we did is we took those loads in the lanes, and that's what you see is those are origin points. We took those loads that fell into those challenging quadrants where there was going to be different action than your normal, easy to cover load. And we created this visualization to illustrate how volatile the areas were for these spot market loads and how much of a deviation we were seeing on a weekly basis within those areas. This was so incredibly powerful and insightful that it changed the conversation with the customers, and they felt that we were having a more strategic solution-based approach than talking about a specific load and the challenges related to that specific load. This, again, was a great way to engage with the customer and create a visualization that's easy to understand and able to take a different course of action than we normally would have been able to achieve. relative to the large amount of data that we had to sort through and determine the value of that data and how does it translate into meaningful insights from not only a customer standpoint and supporting that business, but also from a profitability and a margin standpoint. And how do we translate that into KPIs? We really go through a process to figure out what are those key business questions and what data would we need to answer those key business questions. And then from there, it's really an iterative process. So this visualization that I'm showing you, this is probably the 6th or 7th version of the visualization because it's a data discovery at that point. We know we need to identify those areas that we need to either improve action, speed to result, or we need to also refocus resources to really drive a better result. And for us, the aha moment of this card and this visualization was really the connection of a coverage score, which represents the supply and demand that currently exists in the market. Also, some other relative factors relative to rate and profitability of the load, and the time, the days to ship. That adding that time element really took this card to a whole nother level. And the action that we were able to drive and the change in behavior that we were able to drive with this card really produced such great result in our business. The value in this card was the transparent discussion and information that we could provide in a real-time manner to our customers. Because this information really impacts how they service their end consumers or their customers, as well as how they manage their freight execution and getting inventory to their shelves. This was a connection of market data that, quite honestly, everyone who's in the produce or food and beverage industry is quite impacted by freight conditions, and they read about it and they see and they know, they feel it. But to be able to actually take those conditions and marry it up with their data and their executional lanes was a benefit and a success that we were able to achieve that far exceeded any industry or market information that we could have shared with them. Next, I would like to talk about a really creative way that we were able to engage employees through intuitive visualizations. And this was really around the sudden change in the work setting. We had a loud, boisterous office where people sat next to each other in an open floor concept and talked about their families and their hobbies and the things they like to do each and every day. And all of a sudden that completely changed and everybody was in their home setting and didn't have that level of engagement. And we had to think of a really quick and creative way that we could improve that engagement across employees. And so what we did is we went to the Domo platform, and again, along the lines of being agile and being able to connect data quickly. In this case, it was personal data. So we created a employee engagement page we called the Quarantine Connection. And each and every week, we asked a question and we asked for a response and a photo to be submitted, and each employee would create their own note card and explain what was going on relative to that question in their current life. It was really fun and really creative, a creative space that everybody could connect to and keep up with one another. We used questions like, what does your current workspace look like? So as you can see from here, Everybody had really creative workspaces. Some people worked at counters. Some people actually had offices. Some people took pictures with their dogs sitting at their feet. We also asked, what are you thankful for during quarantine? What are you planning to do when the states open back up? What photo or meme currently depicts how you are feeling? So we were able to really connect in a very personal and emotional way through the use of Domo, which to me is quite incredible and quite flexible. So as I said, we have about 60 people in our company, and on these cards, some of these cards have over 600 views. That's the other great power of Domo, is that you can see how much people are interacting with cards, and for one card to have 600 views over the course of a 6 to 8 week time frame, I think that speaks volumes to how much fun people had with this page, and being able to maintain a personal connection in a really challenging time. Now let's talk about future-proofing your business with Domo. This is a key, important step in making sure that you are prepared for the unexpected to occur. There were 4 steps that we took actively to prepare for the future. We did this by exploring data, by using quick connectors, and by creating proof of concepts. And I truly believe that all 3 of these have to be done together in order to make this concept work. You also need to be proactive. I always talk with my team about what questions are the business leaders asking that we can't answer today, and why can't we answer them? What data is missing? How can we get it? And if maybe we can't get it out of a system quickly and easily, are there some intermediate workarounds where we can take some of those sample data sets and start to do data exploration? Data exploration was so incredibly critical in the market example that I gave you, because we knew that there was inherently some value in this market-based data. And it was quite an extensive data set, and there were all these different indicators. Who is rejecting tenders in the market? What is the capacity indicator? We made a proactive decision to connect that data and to start loading it within our data warehouse. We also made a decision that we felt that time and changes over time were very insightful and valuable for us to be able to look at. What's the change week over week? How rapidly is that area changing week over week? And so we made a decision to not only connect that data, but to start taking snapshots of that data. At the time that we made that decision, we didn't really know exactly what those end user cards or visualizations were going to look like. But we knew there was probably some value that we could get out of that data. As we started to load that, these unexpected scenarios happen, whether it's seasonal changes or it's COVID-19, which completely turns your business upside down. But until you have those conditions happen, sometimes you can't see the wide spread of the results of the data until you have some unpredicted, unforeseen events happen. And then now you have some comparison points. So that really enabled us to start exploring data and start putting it together and seeing what trends would result from bringing those data sets together and creating visualizations. We also have gotten creative about how do we do a quick connect of data. So can we do an Excel upload? Another favorite that we use quite often are Google Sheets. So we often have examples where maybe we're not collecting the data in a system or in a very uniform or automatic manner. We have asked for participation from our team members to log data into Google Sheets to get it into Domo so that we could start looking at data trends and creating visualizations and really then finding the answer to those questions and where or what data is the most valuable in answering those questions. And along with that, we start building out the proof of concept. So we have a lot of sample dashboards out there that we start building, and we start creating those visualizations to really dig into what the data is telling us and where we might be able to find those little nuggets, those gold nuggets that really change how you drive a business result. So I would like to take you through a quick example of how we did that. What you're looking at here is a spot opportunity data set. So up in the upper left-hand corner, this is the use of a Google Sheet. And we realized that when we lost customer business in the food service provider industry, when the restaurants started closing down and the need for that product to go into restaurants really quickly dried up, we had to pivot and find other areas where we could capture new business, and we could capture it quickly. And so in our business, in the logistics arena, it's to really go out and grab what we call those spot market loads. They're last minute loads. Maybe a carrier had it and gave it back, and so now they're looking for someone to pick up and execute that load within the current day or within a 48-hour turnaround. And so we did not have a system where we were actively measuring our sales efforts and outreach to grab those spot opportunities. And so we got with our sales and our customer success teams and we asked them, can you start logging that activity? And we made it very simple for them. Here's what we feel the key fields are that we need you to log. And then what we were able to do is take and start creating visualizations that not only led to improved strategy around how to grow that business segment, but it also gave those teams a real-time read on where they were successful and where they weren't. And so where they could see where they had green boxes and how that correlated to those customers that they were consistently winning with, they could really see the opportunity, and they could harness and use those wins to lead to more business conversion with those customers. And then we were able to take that data set and over on the left, start creating a dashboard, a growth-based dashboard that helped us see how many new customers are we setting up? What is our conversion rate? How can we improve that? How can we win more spot loads? And not only did that help improve our business conversion by 20% immediately, but what it also did is it created opportunities for us to now convert those customers that would have been transactional and convert them over into a more long-term customer. So we were also able to grow our long-term customer base by using this concept. And this was a very quick connection of data and translation into an intuitive visualization for our teams to use immediately, and a proof of concept of how we could take a business segment and grow it. In essence, Domo allowed us to be curious, and that enabled insights that led to improved business conversion by 20%. To close, 3 keys that really led to our success: scalable data strategy, intuitive visualizations, and future preparation. We achieved a scalable data strategy in order to deliver new insights rapidly. We also used intuitive visualizations to drive continuous improvement and drive better action and business results. And finally, we were able to prepare for the future by quickly connecting exploratory data sets and building out proof of concepts. It helped us build for the unexpected that may come tomorrow. I want to thank you for joining me today for my session around expecting the unexpected. My name is Megan Fortenberry, and I will be in the live chat if you have any further questions. Thank you.